the Wiggly Podcast. Let your iPod bloom.
Hi honey, I'm home. Well, it's just me today on the Wiggly Podcast, but I'm so glad to be utterly and totally back. You have no idea what it's like on a Thursday morning. You sat there and you think, there's no podcast today. Michael is away. He's got to do the Wiggly catalogue and we've got lots of things to do. And Farmer Phil's on harvest and Ricardo has, of course, gone fishing. He's always gone fishing. It's just me and I'm back. So, the harvest update. Grass seed in the bag. Happily done. Wheat harvested. The indigo is ripe. Farmer Phil still thinks it's purple. It's brown. But it's done. £65 a tonne. The price has plummeted from £180 to a disastrous 65. So whilst the harvest has been successful, the price is below the price of growing it. But the good news, the highlight, are the peas. Record crop for peas, record price for peas. The peas are out of the pod. Behind the scenes at Wiggly's, Rosie has gone off to be a nurse. Neil has finished his summer stay with Wiggly's. Rachel is about to go to India for millions of years. And the sunflowers are ripe. They're being picked and they're going to make boxes of sunshine right now. So if you want one, be quick. Farmer Phil and I have been off to lunch at Highgrove. Oh, we saw the stumpery. We met the head gardener. Deb's good enough. We lunched on homemade shepherd's pie with 348 other people. Moving on. We've just launched the latest generation of Worm Cafe. The Wiggly Ryden has landed. You'll hear more about that later. And we've collected the hops from Mr. Hopman, Mr. Lewis over the way. Now, the cows have had an audition. They've been auditioned for the new Jimmy Doherty, Jimmy Farm, latest series, which is being made by the BBC Natural History team. They normally shoot tigers, lions and buffaloes, but they've decided they want to know about domesticated animals. So they came round, filmed Farmer Phil, myself and all the cows in the fields, and we have yet to hear if they pass through to the next audition. Obviously, we groomed and fluffed them, and unfortunately they pooed right over me during the filming process, so we will see what happens. But first, it's time for a romantic moment. It's Terry and Ricardo's first anniversary. Let's go to the valleys to hear how they're going to celebrate.
Right then, Terry. About a year ago, I came out. It was the start of our beautiful relationship, and
get a bit ruddy with this. This is smelling his rhubarb stew again. Seems to attract the wrong sort.
And I brought up this wormery, right? And
yep.
I think there was a hint of cynicism, but a bit of scepticism possibly. You thought, that's a nice gift, but I'll try it out for the benefit of this young lad that's made the effort to come down to see me.
He's come all this way into sunny South Wales. I better give it a try.
You have it, and I think you've realised the error of your cynicism, haven't you?
Well, I mean, when he came along with it first of all, out came this black bin and he put it together and I thought it was a tea urn. There was this little tap on the bottom. I thought, God, we're ideal for the cafe. This we can brew tea in the mass amount now instead of put a kettle on. But no, I mean, you came along and you You set this thing up and you put in these 1,000 English worms who adapted quite well to the Welsh climate.
Yeah, that's right.
The one guy they took in from our compost heap have adapted quite well with
That's
them.
always the way. The English always accept the Welsh.
You know, there's one Welshman has converted these to the sort of ways of the world, you know. But yeah, I was very cynical, and I thought, well, I mean, collecting kitchen waste, I collect that anyway. It goes into my green Daleks. I waste not one, not everything that comes out of the kitchen goes back in the soil.
Yeah.
But then you convinced me then these little worms would munch on this stuff. They were fairly well behaved. There was never any problem. They would keep breeding and doing things that worms do.
Right.
They would munch up all this food, and in the bottom would become this worm pea. And I thought, oh, worm pea, what's that do then? You know. And they say it's good for the complexion, but I haven't tried it yet. I mean, I've tried it with everything else. But I mean,
just as well.
Yeah, and this wonderful liquid started coming out. So I started adding it to my watering can last year. And I started feeding mainly my tomatoes, things in the greenhouse, and they really flourished. And this year now, I mean, one of the secrets of this year has been to me, I'm going more, even though I got a large allotment, you know, I'm still a greedy gardener, and I'm a great advocate of container growing. Yeah. And this is something which lots of people can do now. Don't have to have an allotment. Some bins dotted around, and you've got quite a dense area there of bins. Yeah. And I got some magnificent crops in here. I mean, I've got these 2 first-year grown parsnips in bins. I was a bit sceptical about that, but I'm feeding these continually on worm pea, and they're healthiest, magnificent looking things. Yeah. And next to them, there's 2 rows of carrots which are almost on the verge of being pulled. Yeah. They are being fed on the byproducts of this wormity. Yeah. And all along the wall there, you see? Yeah. I got radish and spring onions and all the rest growing. And all of them, with containers, they do run out of food fairly quickly. Yeah. And you want some natural organic material to put back. Yeah. And the wormity seems to be the answer. Yeah. It really has made all these things thrive.
It does. Container growing is, I think we might have talked about it on the Wiggly Podcast, but only briefly really. Never gone into any real detail about container growing, but it is something that's really achievable in such a small space. How many different pots have you got there in 12 inches? 12 inch pots?
There's 6 inch, they have florist buckets, you know. Yeah. When you walk down the main street, when they empty your flowers, you nick it. And they are perfect for salad crops. Right. And again, with salad crops, particularly radishes, you don't want many. You can't eat radishes in vast amounts. So you can, and then they're about a 4 to 5 week cycle in these things. You can keep adding these every 2 to 3 weeks, these radishes, and you continually add in empty salad. Same with the spring onions. Yeah. I got 3 stages. I'm pulling spring onions, then I'll have spring onions again. I got some smaller ones coming behind. Yeah. So I can save my ground for the larger crops, which I need for the all year round use, and I can have perfect salad crops grown in these. Yeah. But you do have to feed them. And if you're going to go out and buy these proprietary foods constantly, then some of the value disappears. Sure. I'm not a man to spend my money unwisely, so I'm looking for cheap solutions.
Yeah, I know. I realise that. I think that's the beauty of this setup here, right? Is you've got a wormery, which is relatively small and inconspicuous, and but it does manage to contain sufficient amounts of waste, so it's something that's completely useful in its own right. And then you've got a strip of containers with a host of different things in. So really, it's this kind of holistic approach to growing veg. It's all been sown in succession. You've got a constant supply of plant food here that comes off the back of what you chuck under your kitchen sink and your kitchen caddy once every week. And it's a perfect scenario for people that don't have much space.
I'm on my 3rd layer of this compost now, and I'm collecting these in bags. It's too precious to put on my soil. I got plenty of well-rotted organic manure. But this is brilliant for next year now. Again, when I'm planting all my sowings, I'm mixing this with standard compost, and it goes that much further, and it's all free again. So I'm saving money yet again on this compost. And the success with last year's broad beans has absolutely astounded me. I had the best looking broad beans, the healthiest looking broad beans.
I think I wrote about that recently in a little article I did for an allotment magazine, like broad beans, that you were amazed that you've got such fine quality specimens off the back of worm poo.
And again, one of the things with a crop, if you haven't got a good solid plant to start life, you're not going to get a good crop off them. They need to be healthy, they need to grow well. And I'm going to have a magnificent crop of broad beans, which I'm picking quite well at the moment. So I'll be eating them all for the winter now, right. All thanks to the byproduct of this wormity. Yeah. So I was extremely sceptical. This little 3-tiered thing here was going to be full of this compost. It's going to give me all this worm pea, which I'm going to use. And I couldn't believe what value it has. So yes, I am a converting man.
I've achieved something.
You've achieved them, and you've achieved that now. And it's brilliant from the point of view of people with small gardens. Put the containers. You're looking for a feed. You're looking for your kitchen waste use. You can use this. You're not putting it to landfill. You're recycling it quite good, and all the byproduct is going back in. But people with containers next year as well, when you mix that with the stuff you're going to put back in these containers, you won't got to go out and buy vast amounts of compost either.
No.
So you're constantly producing your own needs. So it's brilliant from that point of view. Absolutely brilliant.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Cool, it was raining there then. Whew. Anyway, next week we've got Rachel Harris with a real special. She interviews Tom at Moccas Deer Park, the Natural England Nature Reserve. You can't go in there, so it's your only chance to get a listen is next week on the Wiggly Podcast. But first, what you've all been waiting for. We've had email after email about this, you know. Why I'm not featured in them, I don't know. But here we go. It's a Montycast, a weekly fact on wiggliness.
The Montycast, a weekly fact on wiggliness. At Wiggly Wigglers, Tanya pays bills and Gareth loves Apple computers. And he races remote control cars. Another Montycast next week on the Wiggly Podcast.
It's weird being on my own, alone, in this studio, with Michael sat next to me. Anyway, I tried to catch up with Farm Phil on the way, but he was outside my range, so I couldn't. Listen, I've got here the new, latest Wiggly catalogue, which has yet to go to the printers. This is why we've been away so long, and there's lots of stuff in it. And I'm not going to tell you too much about it, but there's goji berries, there's cranberry bushes, there's the most glorious florist product, which is called the Wiggly Wand. It's when you want to send somebody a wish. Say you want to wish them well, or you want to wish them good luck, but you don't want to spend lots of money. And it's handcrafted, and I love it. And it's from Peter Church, and this man makes them in his little shed. And then we put all the short flowers in them, so that we don't make them too expensive, and we would hate to miss composting the short flowers. So here they are. It's absolutely lovely, I think so. We've got some new packaging. Hedgehog mix is back. Those of you who wanted to feed the hoggies and we couldn't do it because of dried mealworms, we got them back. We've got some lovely blue bird balls. I love them. I don't know what they're made of. Ceramic. Eva Solar has got a lovely bird box. For those of you that want designer bird boxes, these are they. I want those up on Farmer Phil's cowshed. And if the telly comes to film the cow behaviour, they'll be there in the background. What else have we got? We got some lovely, Akenbury wood. Is a Dutchy wood. It's all about sustainable coppicing, and these new feeders are made of chestnut, and the great thing about chestnut is it's a hardwood, so they'll last for a heck of a long time. And folks are up there doing all sorts of rehabilitation, and Ricky's husband Mike goes and helps, and he has got completely into being in the woods making stuff. So we've got a lovely Niger seed feeder and a peanut feeder. Whew, this is a good Wiggly sales go here. You know, they're not here to shut me up. I'll carry on for weeks and weeks and weeks. In fact, I'm going to introduce you to our latest product, which is the Worm Cafe that's launched on the website. Have a look. And our latest composter for large scale waste, which is the Wiggly Ridan. And a lovely chap called Dan has made the Ridan down in Devon, and he's there supplying all the schools with these lovely composters, very low tech. And he brought the first ever Wiggly Ridan to the farm on Tuesday, and we set it up together. Welcome down to Wiggly Wigglers with the brand new, amazing, keep the world turning, world first Wiggly Ridan.
Yeah, it's landed.
Listen, it looks like a big sausage with a chimney on the top. Alison and Gareth are here to be trained in all the finer aspects of kitchen composting Ridan style. But what exactly is it?
Okay, it's an in-vessel composter. So it aerobically composts organic matter. Sounds like a mouthful, but basically food waste or garden waste goes in the top. It's mixed with air and carbon as it goes through, carbon being wood chip or sawdust.
Or straw.
Or straw. or shredded paper.
Okay. Or cardboard. Okay, yep.
It all mixes together inside, where it gets very hot, which makes the composting process happen really quickly because it's hot. It speeds the whole process up.
Okay, so on the top there is a chimney.
There is a chimney.
In effect.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm going to load my waste in.
Yeah.
And the bottom, where the compost comes out, is a hole. So is that actually drawing air through it like a fire chimney would draw fire through a grate?
Exactly, yeah. So hot air rises, so it gets sucked in at the bottom and carries out of the top. As the air passes through, it takes lots of moisture with it, which is 90% of food and organic matter like that is moisture. So it gets dragged through, it condenses as it passes out of the lid, and so the volume of what you put in reduces by about 80% as it passes through.
And it's obvious that this has been made in Devon, because it's got some neoprene that they have for going in their sea.
That's right. Styled on surfers.
Okay, so in here goes the waste. Now, what about this handle?
Okay, like I say, that's the stirring part. So to get the contents, the food waste and the carbon, the wood chip, to all mix up with the oxygen which is going through, we give it a stir. That's by turning the handle on the end.
Okay. So how much waste will I be able to put in this thing?
About 20 litres maximum per day, which is a huge bucket.
Is that this bucket over here?
Yeah. I've got a big bucket here which has got some wood chip in it at the moment. This is the sort of wood chip that we've been using. It's freely available to us. It's been through a chipper.
Yeah.
Because it's quite large chunks, it's quite bulky, which means that the air can pass through the mixture.
But if I'm adding that, then I'm just making myself more of a problem, aren't I? Can I put 20 litres of waste in plus wood chip, or...?
Yes.
And how much wood chip would I need to add?
About the same as you put in of food waste, so 50-50 is the mix.
Really?
Yeah.
Gosh.
In effect, you're putting 2 big bucketfuls in a day.
Yep.
One is wood chip or carbon, depending on what sort of carbon you use, and one is waste food.
So if you use cardboard and paper,
yeah,
it composts down quicker than wood chip, really?
Yeah, depending on what sort of carbon you use, yeah, it will break down quicker. Sawdust breaks down more quickly, and it makes a nicer compost because it's smaller, so it doesn't need to effectively rot down.
But I mean, this isn't for your average household, is it? This is for, what, pub?
Yeah, pub,
school,
restaurant, school, anywhere where there's a canteen or a cafe. Yeah. It'll handle a lot more waste food than a house produces.
Yeah, it's quite huge. You wouldn't
imagine
that in your back garden.
Can't quite see it, can you?
So what's the capacity of this thing? Because people are bound to ask us on the phone.
It's nearly 400 litres inside.
400 litres, wow.
So if I put a bucket full of waste in every day,
yeah,
I'm going to deal with, 140 litres a week.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to get, 1 bucket full of compost out of the bottom. Would that be a fair...
Well, you'll probably get 2 bucketfuls, but 1 bucketful will probably... half of that will probably still be wood chip. So if you sieve what comes out in a garden riddle, that'll take out the wood chip and you'll end up with about 1 bucketful of compost, which can then go onto the garden.
Can I reuse the wood chip then?
Yeah, you can recycle it straight back in.
And can I put this compost straight onto the garden, or do I need to use worms to break it down even more, or what's the story? Because this is compost in 7 days. This is big news, isn't it? Of course, worms do it daily, obviously not as good as them, but I mean, this is compost in 7 days, isn't it?
It's very quick compost, yeah. But ideally, it could do with some more time to mature, so you might need to put it into a storage bin of some sort, just one of your green compost bins, to sit for a couple of months. Should be enough to really finish it off, so it really is high-grade compost.
Or I could use it as a mulch, presumably straight away, could I?
Yeah, definitely, yeah, you could use it straight away.
Yeah. So if I've got horses, can I use this thing to deal with horse manure?
Yeah, it works great with horse manure. Produces great compost.
Fantastic, isn't it?
Good.
Yeah. So how many households could this deal with? So if you've got maybe a community that want to go starting to compost together and they live fairly closely together, how many do you reckon it could deal with?
Up to about 50, I think, Heather, but It depends on what sort of cooking they do, how much fresh
darling, if they're
use.
vegetarian, then it's going to be difficult. But, I mean, if they're into frozen chips... we could have hundreds of them. So depending on what sort of person you are...
That is a very good point, actually, because you can put meat and fish and cheese and dairy products through the ride, and it composts all the food. It's not just vegetables that we're talking about.
Cool. And presumably, I mean, if I've got a school... You know, there's a lot of health and safety issues and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
How is that addressed in the Wiggly Riding?
The school needs to register with DEFRA for an exemption certificate, but as long as the food is produced on site where it's composted and then the compost is then used on site, nothing is taken off the site, it's all legally proper and there's no risk or health risk at all.
And that's the same presumably for a restaurant or a pub.
Exactly
at the same time. So waste exemption licence.
That's right.
And then you're away.
That's it.
Gosh.
Dead simple.
It is simple. I mean, I've seen a similar concept to this, but it's much more automated and very high tech.
Yeah.
This seems to be, no offence, Dan, but you know, it's the sausage with a handle, isn't it? Really?
A sausage machine.
It's a massive punch bag.
It's yeah. Have you? I mean, you've designed it like
Yes.
that? I mean, presumably simplicity, ease of use, and
Yeah. Obviously, we're aware of the more high-tech machines. And we've realised that we can make something which is more low-tech but does the same job.
yeah.
And this one, the high-tech machines need power, which isn't very good for lots of reasons. And they also need to stand inside. They need to be inside a shed, which is also more complication and expense.
See, I love this because this is hands-on, isn't it? This is proper hands-on without getting too messy. It's low-tech. When I saw it first working, which was at Riverford Organics, I was really, I liked it so much I put my name on it. Wish I bought the company, but I couldn't afford it. But it's a great, neat product, isn't it? Well, I think it is.
How often do you have to turn it?
About once a day. When you load it, just give it a few turns.
How many turns? 6?
Yeah, well, it's...
What's
6,
in there then?
There's a gearbox on the end, so that 6 turns of the handle means 1 turn of the insides of the guts of it.
And there's a paddle in there.
Yeah, there are paddles in there which stir all the food around in the compost.
Could you get a bogey in there that would get stuck?
A bogey?
Yeah, you know. Like, could you get it so that it wouldn't turn?
I think you could, possibly.
That's why you have the gearbox on there.
Oh.
I'll be a bit surprised. It will take, if you're a restaurant and you forget to take, somebody chucks in their soup spoon, it won't do any damage. It'll just get pushed through the system and come out a bit bent, I should think.
Or
I
his
see.
posh necklace.
Yes, my necklace. Yes, my jewels.
That's right.
Yes, I
Or
could
your
see that.
bogey, yeah.
Could be an issue. What about temperature? Because it's all very well saying, oh yes, you need to get it hot.
Yeah.
Now, I've composted many times for many years, and sometimes it doesn't get hot.
Okay, well, it needs to get hot to work properly. If it doesn't get hot after you've been loading it up for a week or so, then put in some grass clippings or lots of green stuff, and that's almost guaranteed to get it hot.
I see.
And you'll know when it's hot because the steam will come out of the top. When you lift the lid off, you'll get a face full of steam. On a cold morning, you'll see a nice steam cloud rising from it.
And presumably we can use our bokashi buckets in here. So bokashi in the kitchen that's fermenting can go in as usual.
That's right.
No issue.
No issue whatsoever. No.
And what's the worst thing could happen? So could we get flies in there? Could it be a bit unpleasant, Dan?
It could be unpleasant, yeah. If it's not getting hot, then it can get smelly. And if you don't turn it enough, it can get smelly. That's when it goes anaerobic, so basically it's rotting, and that's what you don't want. But as long as you turn it enough, and as long as you put in enough carbon, so you need to add the same amount of carbon, wood chip or paper, as food, otherwise it'll pong. If it starts to smell or it goes cold, add more carbon, add some grass clippings, and it'll get hot again.
Should we have a thermometer with it?
You could, but I
don't
tend
need
to
it?
find that people that have them use them for the first couple of weeks and then never bother, because if the steam coming out, it's hot.
Sounds like a good Wiggly ad on sale there.
Yeah,
So as long as there's steam, we're away.
exactly.
Yeah. And what would happen if the school or the pub or the restaurant or the horse owner or even the person with the pig at the end of their garden, poultry manure would be brilliant, wouldn't it?
Poultry should be
Yeah.
really good. I've never tried it. But
I'll
it should
try
be,
some of
yeah.
that. I've got just the thing for
Very
it.
high in
But what would happen if they didn't have enough waste?
Not a problem. It'll slow down the process a bit, but like many schools where these are at, they stop feeding them for the summer holidays, as you can imagine, no food, and it all cools down and it goes to sleep. But as soon as you put in a bucket full of food, suddenly it gets hot overnight. Next day it's boiling hot again, and it just carries on because the bugs are still in there, and they just come to life when you feed them.
So presumably you're not expecting people to buy bags and bags of wood chip all the time.
No, you don't need as much wood chip as waste because you can recycle it. You do need some though, so you either need to buy, if the worst case is you buy wood chip from a wood fuel supplier,
Yeah.
which is quite
Locally,
cheap.
presumably.
Yeah, you can get a lot for £10.
Yeah.
You know. Or you can, if you really want to be tidy, you can buy wood pellets, which are the same thing, but
Very posh.
yeah, they come bagged up and they're more expensive.
Yeah.
But mostly if you talk to your local arborist or council even, there are people chipping hedge trimmings all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of paper that we get in the office, we'd be able to fill it no problem. The shredded paper
Yeah.
shouldn't be a problem to put that much in there.
And we've got a cardboard shredder,
Excellent.
so lots of people might have that. But presumably, I mean, this would be a wonderful way of collecting your leaves in the autumn,
Yeah.
storing some bags and adding those leaves as you go along. You know, lots of schools I know have a real problem on the playing field with leaves.
Yeah.
Great activity. Gather them up,
Yeah.
store them by the Wiggly Riding, and away to go.
Yeah.
Now, Dan, why doesn't the wheelbarrow fit under the end?
Your wheelbarrow's too big.
I'll have a word with Rach. On that note, thank you very much. Team, happy with the new product?
Yeah.
Do you like the
Real cool.
logo?
Yeah, it's
Yeah. It's obviously put there for short people. How did you come up with the idea?
A local school wanted to do some composting, and they were looking at buying a really expensive machine. But we
Is
thought
that one of
we
those
could do something
automated
better.
ones that has to go in a shed?
That's right. Yeah.
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 They didn't want to save up for it,
Yeah.
and it's working great. They're really happy.
And so compared to a more expensive type of composter, what are we looking at here?
Well, the Ride-An costs £2,250 plus VAT.
Yeah.
And the more expensive ones are around about £10,000. And they do the same job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how many of these have you made so far? Are we right at the beginning of this
You
fledgling?
are. Yeah, we've made 15 now. And they're all in use and they're all happy.
They're all happy bunnies, aren't
Very
they?
happy bunnies,
Fantastic.
yeah.
That means our support will be very easy.
It will, yeah.
And we look forward to dealing with you, and we look forward to having lots of Wiggly Ridens out there and selling loads. So, Al, if you could just get on the phones and phone everybody, only 110,000 to go, and ask them if they'd like one, that'd be brilliant.
That'd be great, Heather. Here's the invoice.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Next week, as I said, the show will be brought to you from Moccas Deer Park. Moccas is a name for pig's cot. They live in Moccas, but we'll be there next week, Moccas Deer Park from Natural England with Rachel Harries, a proper Wiggly special. But till then, it's me on my own, not on the Wiggly sofa. I'm on a Michael chair in Webley, Herefordshire. Goodbye.
It's a designer chair.
Is it? Oh. Dan, how did you come up with this idea? And why is it called Riding?
Oh, very, very complicated, that.
Yeah,
Heather.
it's obviously psychological. It's all about riding high and...
Deep marketing tool, yeah.
Yeah, you're called Dan.
And Richard's called Richard.
Yeah, ride Dan.
That's it.
Talking.